Colm Boohig joins me on the line for radio listeners now, this is from his mansion. For video listeners and viewers, you'll know I'm actually not telling the truth there. It's I can't really see what kind of house he's living in, but it's nice and bright anyway.
It's well, first of all, hi. Secondly, it's rented accommodation in Dublin, so your imagination can run wild there about how big it is. But you can actually see, right? I know this will mean something to you. Over my left shoulder is a framed picture of What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Oh,
it's the second album, but I can't put it up.
I do know that you are a massive Oasis fan.
Yeah.
And I probably am second after you in the office in terms of those who like Oasis. I know Richie McCormick and Stephen Doyle are a bit snobbish when it comes to it.
Very snobbish, but like it's one of the first things I spoke to Steve-O about. I think he's a big Noel fan. I don't know about Oasis, but I'm like shamelessly an Oasis fan. Just like I watch like Main Road 1996 happily on YouTube. We have great times to do it right now as well. No problem at all to me. But I have to get that picture up. I don't have a nail for it to put it up.
I actually have the Definitely Maybe album made into a clock. So if you know that album cover.
Yeah.
That's sticking up on my wall as a clock. It's impossible to tell what time it is. So it's like 1/4 Liam's shoulder. If it's 6 o'clock, I don't know. It's tough to tell the time. How are you keeping anyway in your home working environment and in general in this time?
Not too bad. Like by the time everybody hears this and sees this, I'll have been working from home for about 3 weeks. It's all I know now anymore. It's all I know. Actually, do you know what? I'm just kind of like, I just survive on fun facts now. I have a fun fact for you about Definitely Maybe, the album cover.
Go for it.
The wine that you see in the wine glasses, that's actually Ribena. Because the lads had absolutely no money at the time.
Yeah.
And all popped down to the local corner shop and just bought a load of Ribena and put it into wine glasses. So there you go. Listen, you weren't bargaining for this when this recording started. You know, that's an extra fun fact for you.
Would the studio not have paid for a bottle of wine for them to put in the cover, no?
Listen, I'm just telling you what I know. I don't know.
That sounds like half-ass internet research for me.
That's all I need to do. Like.
Anyway, what you were here for today and what some of the people who have read my piece on offtheball.com will know that we're talking about is big men and the idea that, you know, sometimes they're pegged into a hole that maybe they're not. And you always hear this saying, he has good feet for a big man. Not just that he has good feet, but he has good feet for a big man. So they're kind of shoved into this little hole as if a big footballer can't be actually good with his feet. So we're going to do a list of our favourite big men who are also good with their feet.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what we're doing. So I'm going to start this off with the obvious one, the main man who kind of like sums up great feet for a big man, Peter Crouch.
Well, Crouchy just gives you so much more than football as well, so he's going to make any list. But I just want to clarify something here. Is he number 5 or number 1 if you're doing a top 5? Where does he fall on your list?
I was going to do my list in no particular order. He's actually
the cop out.
See, I just did up a list of my 5 favourite ones. I never actually ranked them. I know you live in a black and white world, Colm, but I live in a more nuanced one. So
I'm Johnny Nuance. Like I have seriously considered this. My 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Okay, right.
And you're telling me this.
We probably should have organised this beforehand before we actually started the recording. No, but right, okay. So do you want to go from 5 and work our way down, or do you want to go from 1 and work our way up?
5 to 1, definitely.
Okay. Well, in that case, my number 5. I can't actually remember who had number 5. You give me your number 5, and I'll think about who I had.
My number 5. I actually interested to know if you've even heard of this guy. My number 5 on my top 5 big men list is Carsten Janker. Do you remember him?
Not
Striker
really.
for Bayern Munich. So he played as the ultimate number 9 for Bayern Munich in the turn of the century. So he would have played against Manchester United in the 1999 Champions League final. and he is one of the 2 Bayern players who hit the woodwork in the second half that nearly put United to bed. Kind of like a lovable big man in that he had extremely limited ability, like very limited. And I know you want this to be good feet for a big man, but the guy, right, played for Bayern between 1996 and 2002. He won 4 Bundesliga titles. He won the Champions League when Bayern beat Valencia on penalties in the 2001 decider. And he scored 10 goals in 33 games for Germany. And then he went into 2 years with Udinese in Serie A. So it's a great CV. But he was one of the most average players I've ever seen at the elite level of the game. He played when England beat Germany 5-1 under Sven-Göran Eriksson, that famous match. He actually put Germany 1-0 ahead. Okay. But it was one of the worst displays ever seen by a centre-forward, despite his goal.
So you're just going on, there's beauty in big, as opposed to...
There's beauty in big, because, Enda, this guy was effective.
Yeah, well, I can get on board with that.
Yeah. So 6'4" as well. So the other thing I want to say is, what qualifies for you as a big man? Because I think 6'3" above.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to follow this up on. It's 6'3" and above. You're not a big man unless you're 6'3" or above, essentially. Because
what height are you?
I'm
5'10"?
6 foot.
I'm 6'1".
Well, you're not quite a big man. You're probably above average. What's average height? 5'11", 5'10"?
Is it? Yeah, probably.
Maybe 5'10", I would say. So,
well, congratulations.
I would say if you're going to be a centre back or a centre forward who's going to be holding up the ball at any point, you don't want to be anywhere below 6 foot.
True. Yeah, true. But Nicholas Otamendi, he's probably not 6 foot, and you see the result.
I mean, he's useless.
Yeah,
so,
see the results.
You're proving my point.
That's what I mean.
My number 5, Mario Mandzukic.
Oh yeah, I didn't even consider Mandzukic.
Yeah, he just about makes it at 6'3". He scratches into that 6'3" mark. Phenomenal player, diverse player. I know a lot of people wondered why, and this is kind of the premise of the way I was thinking is that people wondered why the Juventus stuck him on the wing, because they were like, if he's 6'3", stick him in the box, he'll be much more effective. But he wasn't. He was much more effective on the wing because he was good with his feet. He was very good at holding up with the ball. He could turn players. He was agile. He had a great dead ball delivery. So he was more effective on the ball than he was, say, getting the ball pumped up to him.
He also scored one of the great Champions League final goals.
Yes.
For Juventus against Real Madrid in 2017.
It's one of the more disappointing ones, though, because they didn't go on to win that final.
Yeah.
So it's probably the best goal scored in a Champions League final that didn't end in the team winning.
He'll always have that.
Do you think his bicycle kick was better than Gareth Bale's? Because it's an argument I've had.
Oh, no, come on. I mean, when Gareth Bale did that, I made involuntary noises. I was in a restaurant. I was watching, there was a TV in the corner. I was in Croatia at the time, actually, and there was loads of... there was a few Croatian players in that match. So everyone went mental. I this was stupid.
I think I burst out laughing.
It was ridiculous.
I just couldn't believe what happened.
Yeah, if you scored the goal in FIFA, you would have told people about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was outrageous.
Still not taken away from Mandzukic's goal. Fantastic. As well as that, he's brilliant career for Croatia as well. Yeah. He's a really good striker and probably underrated. I know United were linked with him every single year, and why they didn't pull the trigger a few years ago when they needed a sort of replacement for Lukaku didn't really make sense to me. Number 4 for you?
My number 4, I'm going retro again, is Paulo Wanchap, the Costa Rican superstar. Do you remember Paulo Wanchap?
Not really. You're going for ones that I probably should have.
Yeah, because I know who you're going to pick, right? You're going for the superstars.
Just because yeah, well, okay. You go for these players, and I'll go for the real good footballers.
Look, my team they're a bunch of good guys, like my 5-a-side, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fine. I'll let you away with that, and there is a place for that. But at the end of the day, are they going to win anything? Maybe. It
doesn't matter. They'll win the hearts of the nation and the world, because like Paulo Wanchap came from Costa Rica in 1997. Derby County signed him. Okay, 1997 from Costa Rican football. Absolute nobody. I mean, really a nobody at that time. And Derby picked him up, and Paulo Wanchope proceeded to score one of the great goals at Old Trafford against Manchester United at a time when United were the dominant force in English football. And the goal is easy to find on YouTube. You just type in Paulo Wanchope, and it will almost certainly be the first thing that comes up. And he runs half the pitch and flies past half the United team. I particularly remember him skinning Gary Pallister. Pallister was coming towards the end of his United career, and he slotted it past Peter Schmeichel. I think he scored twice in that game. And unlike Mandzukic in the Champions League final, Derby won that match 4-2 at Old Trafford. And he went on to have a really good Premier League career with West Ham, and then he was 4 years at Manchester City. And
why don't I
6'4".
He's just not coming into my head.
Oh, he's Costa Rican legend. He's scored a ridiculous amount of, 45 goals and 73 caps for Costa Rica, and he managed them in 2014-15. So you can't get a bigger legend, living icon in Costa Rica. And Paulo Wanchope has the added bonus of looking a lot taller than his 6'4" frame. He was real lanky.
Yeah.
And unlike Yanker, he really did have good feet for a big fella.
Well, I'll let you away with that. I need to actually go and look this guy up because it seems to be one of those names that's just not jumping into my head. But once I look into him, I'll be absolutely hitting myself in the face because I couldn't remember him. My number 4, and everyone knows this because he's a superstar. Because I've gone for the superstars column. Chris Sutton.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
What height is Chris Sutton?
He is 6'3" as well.
Okay, just qualifies.
Just about. Obviously the reason I chose him was because he was the number 2 to Henrik Larsson up front for Celtic in the glory years of Celtic and that stretch between 2000 and 2005. And you know what? I'll hold my hands up. He was a target man. The goal pretty much hit him from every goal kick. If Celtic got the ball, they pretty much hit it up to him. He chested it down and played it to the better man in Henrik Larsson. But there's something to be said about that because arguably Larsson wouldn't have scored as many goals for Celtic had it not been the likes of John Hartson, who is also good for a big man, and Chris Sutton facilitating him. And one of the iconic goals we spoke about on Classic Game Club when we did the Celtic 6-2 against Rangers was Henrik Larsson's chip. Do you remember that?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
So that wouldn't have happened had Chris Sutton not chested the ball down and give a perfect pass to Henrik Larsson. So I think he deserves to be on there. He also had better feet than people deserve. He was a target man, but he could do it with his feet as well, and there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, like Sutton was so good that I'm surprised that I didn't know he was that tall, first of all. And I would never have seen him as like good for a big fella. I just thought he was good. Like, I remember when he played for Norwich in the 90s, when Norwich were fairly average side, and he was excellent. And he moved to Blackburn, won the league with Blackburn, went to Chelsea. Didn't work out for him at Chelsea, and then went to Celtic. He played for Aston Villa afterwards, but he also played centre half the odd time. Yeah. He'd help out at the back. But Sutton was a brilliant player.
Yeah, very, very good. Technically a very good player in terms of feet work and that as well. And it's a disgrace that he only ever got capped once.
Was it only once?
Was it once, or did he even get?
I know. You're definitely in the ballpark.
It was 1 or 0. It was very, very few times. But I suppose he was going up against the likes of Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, a ton of English strikers around then. So it would have been tough enough for him. Who's your number 3?
All right, you can get on board with the rest of these now. I'm pandering to you. Gerard Piqué.
Oh, interesting.
He's 6 foot. He's
gone
6
for centre half.
Yeah, 6'4", would you believe? And so that I just found out in research there that he was 6'4". I would have put him down as 6'1" or 6'2".
You did a bit of research for this.
Oh, stop!
That's more than I did.
I was up all night. I definitely didn't just text you an hour ago saying, "So what are we doing here?" So Piqué. I'm a Man United fan, so obviously we United fans think of Piqué as what could have been, and Fergie got rid of Piqué to hold on to Johnny Evans, so the story goes, which is no bad thing either. Evans is excellent, but obviously Piqué went on to be one of the great centre halves of our time.
Do you think it is?
There's not. Oh yeah, Oh my God, yeah.
How
Like,
good a defender do you think he actually is if you, say, for example, put him beside Phil Jones?
how would he do beside Phil Jones?
Because
He
arguably that could have been a centre-back partnership had United held on to him.
it's a good question because and I don't mean this as a negative towards PK, but I think he only really performs at his best when he's in a really good team, when he's surrounded by brilliant players.
Yeah, well, that's it.
But not every centre half would be able to do that. So if Phil Jones is in a brilliant side, he's not going to be a brilliant centre half. But PK is a footballing centre half with strength, and he's brave. I don't know if he's as good as what Rio Ferdinand was at his pomp, but the guy's CV is ridiculous. There's very few players who have won more trophies and accolades than PK. He's also the amount of time he's stayed at Barcelona and hasn't been ostracized from the team. No one else has come in and taken his place. And he's a leader on the pitch too. So I love PK. It's one of the great shames that we got rid of him as a United fan. But he was right to go to Barcelona. It suited him. And obviously he's not going to regret that decision.
No.
And also he's big into his tennis. So it's another plus point for me.
Djokovic would definitely come under the good for a big fella if he was playing football. He's quite tall, isn't he?
Yeah, but he doesn't have the stature. Like, he's kind of like all height. He's all vertical. PK had it all.
Yeah, that's true. PK
Who's your three?
PK is a brilliant player. If I was going for a defender, Virgil van Dijk would have been number one in terms of big, tall football playing centre halves. My number three is Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
I mean, what can you say?
I mean, an illustrious career. Whatever about his personality off the pitch, it never bothered me, but it also I never pandered to it either. I didn't really get the allure of him saying about when he moved to the MLS that people were just watching the MLS for him, and that kind of persona never really did it for me. But it never really bothered me either. I just thought that he was a phenomenal player.
I'm surprised to hear that. I thought you would have been a big disciple of the world of Zlatan.
No, not really. I always felt it was forced. So do you know the likes of, we've spoken on the show multiple times about our love for Eric Cantona and his persona and how he perceives himself, and you always felt that was just him, that was his personality, whereas with Zlatan there's always that extra feeling that he's doing it for his brand, and that he didn't actually feel that way, that he was just saying these things because he knew they would get a reaction. And when it's that open and when it's that in your face and you can see plain as day what he's trying to do, it never really did it for me.
But there's an argument to suggest strongly that Zlatan is the greatest good feet for a big fella footballer of all time.
Oh, absolutely. One like that is, I would say, well, I mean, you're looking at his career. He didn't really do that great at Barca, but at Inter Milan, at AC Milan, at Man United when he went, he was brilliant everywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He I don't even categorize, like, he's tall, but I would never even list that as one of his main attributes. The fact that he's tall, and that itself is an imposing thing upon an opponent.
Yeah.
The guy, he plays like a diminutive, small, fiery player.
Well, he actually escaped that whole. He's the one player that I could think of that escaped that whole title of good for a big fella. He was just a really good tall player.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's your number three.
Well, obviously he's the best player, but he's not my favourite.
I'm looking forward to hearing 2 and 1.
So, all right. Well, we already know which one is. You already know one of them, so we're just waiting on the big reveal. Who's your number two? Peter Crouch is my number two, so I'll hear your number two before that.
My number two is Nyanko Kanu.
He was
Arsenal legend.
He was narrowly missed out on my list.
Oh, what a player! And again, Man United fan, and he did his best stuff at Arsenal. But I loved Kanu. 6'6", so more than qualifies for our list.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, his CV. I'm not mad about just listing what a player has accomplished, because you could be, do you want to live like Matt Letizia or Nicky Butt? Nicky Butt has loads of titles, but you're not going to talk warmly of Nicky Butt as much. But I do you can't ignore Kanu's CV. to win the Champions League with Ajax, to win the UEFA Cup with Inter, to be part of the invincible Arsenal side, to win the FA Cup with a very average Portsmouth side in 2008. So he did all that, and he scored the goal in the FA Cup final against Cardiff. But beyond all that, if he had won absolutely nothing in his career, what a player.
Yeah.
What a player. And like, what you can talk about all the goals you want to. I remember he scored a great goal at the Riverside Stadium against Middlesbrough for Arsenal. But the goal for me is the one at Stamford Bridge about 20 years ago. He is literally on the byline, rounds the goalkeeper Ed de Hoy, and scores from the byline. And it was one of those top 5 Martin Tyler moments on Sky Sports commentary where he made this mad noise as a result of what Canu did. And I think Andy Gray was on co-coms, and it was just like the perfect commentary team for the perfect moment. What a player.
Do you think he's a forgotten member of that Arsenal team in Invincibles
100%.
because of what Thierry Henry did?
I think so. I think because he was never a first choice because of Henry and Bergkamp and Elka earlier than that. And he was kind of seen as like, I mean, I hate to use the term, but he really was like good feet for a big man. He was kind of seen as like, Jesus, like freak or circus act because he wore like size 13 or 14 boots and he just looked different. You know what Peter Crouch has subsequently spoken about since his retirement about all the flack and abuse and comments that people used to make about him. I don't think it was never done in a derogatory fashion towards Canu. It was just always commented on how tall he was.
He didn't help himself with the fact that he wore his socks down his ankles.
That's a bad trait to have as a big man if you don't want to be a big man.
You see,
those socks up.
You can do it if you're the likes of Muller or Grealish or that type of player.
Yeah.
But if you're 6 foot, what's that was Canu 6'6"?
6'6".
6'6". If you're 6'6", you just look like you're wearing like normal socks as opposed to football socks.
Exactly. So but he was just, he's just fantastic. He just put a smile on your face. It's a cliche, but he did. And his footwork was phenomenal. Like I used to be obsessed with Soccer AM, right? And they used to have their showboat feature used to be a huge thing. It's still on now, but back in the day it was excellent. And there's one showboat that that Canu did for Arsenal in the North London derby at White Hart Lane against Spurs. And the ball's just it's dead, the ball on the ground, and he has his back to his opponent. And from the ball just being dead on the ground, he just flicks it over with his right boot over the opponent's head and runs onto it the other side and scores from that half volley into the back of the net at Spurs.
Yeah, it was called.
And I didn't even talk about that goal first. What a player!
Unbelievable. So is Peter Crouch your number one then?
No.
No. So Peter Crouch doesn't make your list.
No, and I love Crouchy. I just read his book.
That seems incredibly harsh.
No, because I knew you would. You see, I knew you would, and for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, I wanted to give them a full repertoire of the big man.
Right. Well,
I love Crouchy.
Don't reveal your number one yet. I'm going to make an argument for Crouchy.
Okay.
6'7", so the tallest player on our list, unless you have a taller one coming.
I do.
You do? Yeah. Oh, God. Right, so he's the second tallest on our list. He was criminally underrated throughout his career, at Liverpool especially, where he scored, I think he scored 6 goals in their Champions League campaign, missed out narrowly on that final on a starting place. Then he went to that Portsmouth side that Canu was on and did it there. He had a brilliant England career, including, we all remember the volley he scored. Was that for England? No, sorry, that was for Stoke. But he also scored quite a few goals for England as well. And he's one of those players he probably unfairly treated because of the time that he started, and again a little bit because of how he looked. And
definitely.
There's an argument to be made that he definitely should have been a second choice striker for England when he was in his peak, because he was brilliant in the air, but he was much better with the ball at his feet, and he just looked awkward. That was the only thing about him. He
retired with Burnley because he was so sick of the ball being put up to his head all the time, and he wasn't getting much game time anyway. But he said he was just brought on as a substitute, put up front by Sean Dyche, and they just used to ram the ball up to him, and it was kind of like, deal with that. And he said he didn't mind so much when he was playing regularly for the seasons prior to that, but at the end he was just, this isn't enjoyable anymore. He said it himself on his own podcast, the Peter Crouch podcast, that he could easily have played on beyond last summer, but he was just sick of it. He was just sick of being treated like that. And it was a kind of a startling revelation to make. But he was, out of all the players that we've been discussing here, I think he hated being tall the most.
Yeah.
You know? I've heard him say, because he just hated that.
It was just unfortunate. But at the same time, I think he did admit that he may not have gotten noticed if he wasn't as tall as he was, because people looked at him and was like, oh, look at the size of this guy. He'll do brilliantly. And I don't know if you've got a chance to read my piece on offtheball.com about this, but the point I was making was that basically, have you seen Wreck-It Ralph?
No, but I know it.
You know the idea of it. So John C. Reilly plays Wreck-It Ralph in this game called Fix-It Felix, and he's the bad guy, and he's sick of being the bad guy because to him he's more than that. But everyone just looks at him and thinks, you're the bad guy, you're the villain, and that's all you are. And that's where I kind of made a very, very loose connection. Bear with me, I know it's very loose, but some of these players, they hated the fact that they were known as big men. They just wanted to be known as very good footballers, and that's what Peter Crouch was ultimately. He was a very, very good footballer, classy with his feet, very skillful, but because people looked at him and said, you're big, it meant that he was seen as a big man and he was seen as a target man, and that was never his strength.
He scored an outrageous number of headers throughout his career. Like, it tops the list for so many. And he kind of hated that. Like, he never really discussed it. He was kind of always like, yeah, I scored all these headers, but did you see what I did with the ball against, like, that goal for Stoke against Man City at the Britannia, when he fires in 35, 40 yards out, top corner pass, prime Joe Hart. I'm interested to hear you say that, like, would he have got noticed if he wasn't so tall? If he was just even 6 inches shorter and he was kind of standard, like you say, like average height for a male, was he good enough to make it just by his footballing ability alone?
I think he was, but I don't think he would have went in at the deep end at Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's very hard to know. I think ultimately he was chosen because of his height at the very beginning, but then that ended up being a bit of a curse.
And I think you'll always have that thought that for when people look back in his career, and especially managers, because he played for so many clubs, that, he was a great target man for us. And the bonus was that he could play a bit too. And I think Crouch, what his legacy he wanted to be is the other way around. That, like, he was an absolutely brilliant footballer who happened to be really tall.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be the reverse of it. Always.
Yeah, completely agree. Who's your number one? Very intrigued by this.
My number one, you're going to be like, my number one is Czech Republic striker, 6'8", Jan Koller. Jan Koller played for Borussia Dortmund in the early 2000s. And again, another guy with a great CV. He won the league title in Czech Republic. He won the league title in Belgium with Anderlecht. He won the Bundesliga title with Dortmund in the 2001-2002 season. And he scored 55 goals in 91 games for Czech Republic. One of those 55 goals was against Paul McShane at Lansdowne Road when the Czech Republic played the Republic of Ireland under Steve Staunton's tenure. It was actually Staunton's first major defeat in his tenure.
Yeah, we spoke about that last week, that Ireland Stephen Staunton era. I know you made an argument that it wasn't as bad as people might think, and with hindsight, it probably wasn't.
No, statistically it stands reign. It was like, I can't remember what the win ratio was, but it wasn't too bad. I think only Brian Kerr had a better win ratio than him in recent managers, but obviously because his like Stan had no real high moments, but his low moments were so low, like the Cyprus game and home and away actually, and the San Marino to win 2-1 there in the last minute. But besides all that, Koller was for a person of a certain age like myself, was such a good player. Like, he was, right, this is a bit of a ridiculous statement, so bear with me, but he was like the Zinedine Zidane of number 9s in terms of footwork. He was phenomenal. And he was a late bloomer too. Like, he was quite old when he got to Dortmund, but his footwork and the way he could get a shot off out of nowhere, that goal he scores against Ireland when he spins Paul McShane, that was Paul McShane's Ireland debut, and he got man of the match in that game. And for so much of that match, he was able to curtail the threat of Collar. But for one moment, Collar got the ball into his feet, his back to goal, and McShane up against him, and he just did a little drop of the shoulder like a nippy winger would do, like Aaron Lennon would do. Turns McShane, fires it into the far corner beyond Shay Given. And I remember watching it being like, that's Jan Collar for you. Can't touch him. And he's 6'8". He was unbelievable.
I'll stop you there. Aaron Lennon would not have been able to do that.
What, the drop of the shoulder, though? To be that nippy winger, to be able to be that flexible at a moment's notice.
Yeah,
you're not going to have flexibility with Crouchy.
There's definitely something to be said about that. Yeah, you have to have a bit of agility. You have to have something to make you stand out other than being tall. Do you want to know my number one?
Of course.
Again, I've actually gone for quite a small big man. Small big man in terms of like my entire team. I think they're more or less just 6'3", because this one is 6'3" as well. Olivier Giroud.
Yeah. Just let that sink in. Yeah.
He's one of my favourite players, hands down. Never mind just for a big man.
Is it because he's so handsome?
Well, apart from that, he's just such a classy player. Everything about him oozes class.
Why doesn't Frank Lampard play him at Chelsea?
Well, he's starting to play him now, and he's starting to realise that he has something to add. Because I think if you watch back the Chelsea-Tottenham game, the one that Jose Mourinho came out saying basically that he had no players, and it was interesting because it almost mirrored exactly what Chelsea did. So basically, he said that they couldn't go short because Chelsea would push up on them, and they couldn't go long because they didn't have anybody up front, whereas Chelsea could do both of them because Giroud was playing up front. So if they wanted to go long, they could go long, he'd hold it up and play it out to one of the fast wingers. And then if they wanted to play it through feet, they could do that as well, because he is so classy with his feet that they can do that as well. So Frank Lampard's starting to realise that Giroud has something to offer. Sarri kind of realised it at the end of his career, and at the end of his Chelsea career, one of the things that stands out for me as one of the great Giroud moments, because he's had so many, is that Europa League final again against Arsenal. He had signed for Chelsea because Arsenal had basically ostracised him out of the team. He wasn't getting anywhere near it. And in the Europa League final, Chelsea went 4-1. Giroud sets up 2 goals, scores a beautiful diving header from inside the box, and then sets up Eden Hazard for his hat-trick on his final Chelsea appearance with a phenomenal little dink ball across the ball, his little chip. He spins, I think it's Hector Bellerin, and bursts into the box and then chipped it across into Hazard, and it's a goal. 4-1 Chelsea. Bye-bye Arsenal.
And you haven't even mentioned that he scored one of the greatest Premier League goals in history too, the Scorpion kick, which is around the time Henrik Mkhitaryan scored a similarly good goal for Manchester United. But
I think Mkhitaryan scored it on the Saturday and Giroud scored it on the Sunday.
That's right.
What makes the Giroud one better? Well, there's several things. So here, I actually broke this down. So you get it. Arsenal play the ball. So he shows real diversity in that goal. So first off, he comes short for the ball, gives an option. They play it out from the defence. He receives it on the halfway line. He doesn't take it into his body. He flicks it, backheels it to another, I think it's Granit Xhaka. Xhaka plays it out wing, and you can watch the goal as the game progresses. Giroud bursts his balls to get up into the box, doesn't quite make it. The ball into him is terrible, and he improvises with that scorpion kick, and to add to the general air of brilliance to that goal, it hits off the crossbar and in. It's one of the best individual goals you'll ever see.
And he played a significant part by assisting one of the greatest Premier League goals of the last decade, Arsenal's against Norwich, when nearly every player was involved in the setup.
He also did a flick for that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Jack Wilshere played it into Giroud quickly, and he did a flick back into Wilshere, who finished it off. Yeah, really brilliant. And the team of your list, definitely, well, our list, I suppose, is that a lot of these guys are really underrated. Mm-hmm. And Giroud is probably maybe the most underrated striker in the Premier League, even though the likes of you and me talk about him in glowing terms so often, especially you.
Well, I am known to beat the Giroud drum every now and then when it comes to the office. But I think there are plenty out there that would agree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad list. I mean, I'm happy with my list. Like, I'm going to have a great night out with these 5.
Well, you're satisfied. You might not win any trophies, but you'll be remembered by football nerds, or I don't know. You'll be remembered by some people, but mine will win trophies. So ultimately, mine's better. But
off the list.
Well, I think my list is better. I think if you're going for a 5-a-side game, you're probably, I'd say it's even enough, but I'm going to go with my team.
Listen, this is the first time that Jan Coller has topped any off-the-ball list. I'm pretty confident in that. And for that alone, this is a seminal moment in off-the-ball history. Jan Coller, superstar.
Colm, good man.
Go on, Enda.
Chat to you later. Stay safe.